Narnach here. Welcome back to the Human Resource Machine, in which we have reached year 34 of our career with the Human Resource Machine, and we are slowly starting to have the suspicion that we have to learn to bow down to our evil robot overlords very soon. But until then, let's have a look at the Vowel Incinerator. Yes. What is the meaning of this? Management is attempting to reduce bandwidth by removing all vowels from every word. Good luck. Okay, send everything from the inbox to the outbox except for vowels. Okay, so what's a vowel, you might ask? Well, it's one of these 5 letters. It's an A, an E, an I, an O, or a U. So we have to read letters, check that they are not one of these 5, and if so, we send them out. Let's see what he has to say as an additional hint. Yes, facilities management has kindly left all 5 vowels over there on the floor for you. We really should send them a handwritten thank you note one of these days. Okay. And we have a 0 here, that also seems useful. So let's see, think strategy. We pick a number up, we check, and if it's one of these 5, then we can abort it and we can just move on to the next one. So that's a loop breaker. If it's not one of these 5, we continue, or if it's not 1, then we continue until we reach the end, and only if it's not a U, we can actually send out the letter. If it's one of them, we can just break and go back. Okay, we have a 0 here. That implies there's supposed to be some form of counting, maybe. Let's see. We start with picking up something. Okay, we need to compare it multiple times, so it's probably useful to store it. Ah, this is our pointer. So this is, let's say this is the compare. So we have to label it compare, and this is going to be the pointer. Okay, so we put it down. At that point we are still holding a copy, so what we can do is we can subtract whatever our pointer is pointing at, so that's going to be 0. Actually no, we want to be able to reset it, right? So this is just going to be a 0. A 0 is a 0 is a 0. That's a bit of an ugly R, isn't it? 0. Yes, not much better, but slightly better. Okay, and let's clear the compare. Just space it out again. So this is going to be the pointer, and then we have our compare value over here. Not really improving on my mouse drawing skills though, but you understand what I mean. Okay, so we copy the value to whatever we're comparing it to. That's the thing. After that, it would be so nice to actually do a copy from 0 and then a copy to pointer. The thing is though, that means we have to start with that. We'll see. Most of the time we want to start with inbox to have the termination condition determined, but in this case it's probably going to be slightly more efficient to start by put copy from 0, copy to pointer, because then at least we have a clear pointer, and then after that we can read the value, store it, and then immediately we can run into the loop. So we have the value, we have it in the compare value, we are still holding it in our hand, so that's step 1. Then we can subtract whatever the pointer is pointing at, and if they are the same, it's a 0. So if it's a 0, we know we can break. Basically we can then continue onwards to the beginning. That's our exit condition. Okay, so if it's not 0, we need to bump the pointer by 1. Yeah, and also, conveniently, this is the exit condition. So if whatever the pointer is pointing at is a 0, we also have an exit. So if we bump the pointer, it starts at 0, then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at this point it's going to point at 5, which has a value of 0. So if we then do a copy from, yeah, we actually do a copy from whatever the pointer is pointing at, so we read the value that we're pointing at. If it's equal to 0, we know we are done. So in that case, we need to read the value we are comparing and send it out. So there's a bit of a something over here. We jumped over something. So let's investigate. So from a completely clean state, we reset it. So we copy the 0 value to our pointer. Then we read a value when we store it in the compare value. We're still holding it, so we can then immediately subtract whatever the pointer is pointing at. If it's a 0, we're done. We can go back. At which point we clear the pointer and we pick up a new value and put it in the compare box. So we completely do a reset. So that's pretty solid. Okay. What if that's not the case though? What if they are not the same? Then we move on. So we bump the pointer by 1, meaning it goes to another place. Then we read whatever is in the pointer. And then if it's 0, we know we're done. If it's not the case, then we need to loop. And that basically means we go back here. So that also means because we already just copied something from the pointer. It's like we have to reverse our logic. In the previous solution, it was more efficient to, I think it was more efficient to pick up whatever was in these values and then subtract the pointer. And now it seems like we have to subtract the compare because we have this as a termination condition, whatever is in these things. So the logic needs to be reversed. Okay, we can do that. Basically, we are here, we can do what we want. So if we want to make it work the way it is now, we just pick up the compare. That's easy peasy. We just pick up the compare and basically we are in the same situation because we read the value that we just wrote the first time through, and then we read it and we go back and we just do the thing. And I think this has all the exit conditions except for when we're done, because then we of course need to go back all the way to the beginning, which if you remember, most of the time it's more efficient to actually have that jump to the beginning, so it saves you a jump because you can just fall through. So that's exactly what we can do here. Put that one over there, just put the sticker out. And let's see if this is a functioning solution. This is not going to be anywhere efficient, I suppose. But we'll worry about that. So far it does seem to do what we want. So that's good. It's always a very good first step. Just make it work. Doesn't really matter if it's efficient or not, just make it work. After that you can start worrying about efficiency, and so somewhere along the way you can take efficiency into account while you're building solutions, but optimizing always is a second step. So we have our speed challenge done. We just need to cut out one more step. So let's go back. We copy. Yep. We paste. So this thing that I mentioned about reading a value from here and subtracting this, or picking up this value and subtracting that. It's you can flip it both ways. And that's probably the clue here to make it better. So before we jump, before we jump back in the loop, we do a copy from the compare value. Before that, we copied the pointer value. So we're already holding this in our hands. So if instead of then dropping the value we want and picking up a compare, if we just subtract that value, basically if we do something, actually we just need to shuffle labels a bit. So we have the pointer, then we need, instead of subtracting the pointer, we just subtract the compare value, which means in this point we need to switch it, and we start out by reading from the pointer, at which point we can get rid of this one. No, wait, that was not the case. Dang it. We need that to make a decision. So we actually do need to copy this instruction twice. Yes, to pointer. So this seems slightly wasteful. Slightly wasteful. Also, which is why we come back to our original thing, resetting the loop. I think I said something about that's you always want to start with reading from the inbox and then storing it and then doing your reset cycle. Because if you hit the last number, the inbox is the thing that trying to pick something from an empty inbox is what concludes your program. So if you don't have to clear the pointer beforewards, that saves us 2 cycles. So that's a good thing. So in this case, we pick up the number, we put it in the compare. After that, we pick up a 0 and put it in the pointer, which means we have that one cleared. So there's no more need to do this in the right order. That saves us 2 cycles. Also, not sure if this actually saved us any instructions. I think it might have optimized it slightly for runtime, not for cycles. Seems to behave as it should, so that's good. But I think my previous solution was 14 as well, rather than 15. So we still need to shave off 1 instruction. But the runtime is probably going to be slightly better due to just having shuffled some things around. But this still bugs me. Copy from pointer, copy from pointer. Yeah, see, we actually shaved off 24 cycles, so that's a massive speed improvement. So that's good. We can copy again, and then we do a pasta. Because it's all the way from copy to pasta. So what can we do with this? What can we do with this? Actually, so what if we didn't have this one? So basically, if we jump back and do a copy from here, that means we don't need this copy from the situation where we don't have a 0, but still for the jump of 0 we need to have something. So what if we just put that at the beginning rather than at the end? 23 of our 13 instructions. I think technically it doesn't really matter. It's just gonna hit 1 check in the beginning rather than in the end. So there's a lot of 0 checks here. Jump of 0, subtract, jump of 0. But basically now it will work if this would be a 0. That wouldn't have any meaningful sense, but it's a more complete situation that doesn't get into an infinite loop. And it's still, I mean, we sacrificed 17 cycles for this. It's slightly slower than our previous solution, but it's slightly more theoretically correct, even though in practice it doesn't matter. And more importantly, we shaved off 1 instruction to make it better. Okay. Oh, actually, we can head to the elevator now. So we solved the Vowel Incinerator. So next up, duplicate removal. For year 35. Oh, that's not good. You're fired! Haha, just kidding. But I do have a note here from your other supervisor. She's out sick today, but she says, it's time to eliminate inefficiencies. And that's it. Okay, send everything from the inbox to the outbox. Unless you've seen the same value before, discard any duplicates. Tell me more. Yes, I'm scared of her too. Okay, so seemingly we have a whole playground here on the floor that we can litter with things to compare. So the compare thing we did before, basically we're going to dynamically build it as we go. Interesting. Very interesting. So basically we need to have a thing to compare to. So we have a compare. This is the value that needs to be sent out. So that's what we store it in. Boom. Okay. Then we need to double check the list, which starts empty, but it's gonna grow. And presumably, this is probably gonna be the end of the list. So what we want to do, actually, we can always put something at the end of the list, of course. No, we need to have one magical spot to mark the beginning. That seems like a very, very useful thing to do. Then we can just continue, and then if we hit the end, we are done. Otherwise, we need to reset it. So we need to mark in some way where to go. Okay, that's this is an interesting one to solve. So, well, the first thing is we can just send it out. We copy it, we send it out. Done. Okay. Now we jump back. Okay, next number. Put it down. We send it out. Okay. Next one. Copy it, send it out. Okay. Then we have one we found before. So we need to know what we've processed before because we haven't stored anything so far. So basically what we need to do is we need to store it in someplace new. So let's see, we put it in. Then we have some sort of check routine. Let's see, CHK for check. And if you don't find anything, we can outbox it, which is actually just a very good way to put that at the beginning, step over it, and then we can just instantly go back. Inbox check, go. So what we want to do is we want to put it somewhere. So if, for example, we put the value there and then afterwards we put it here. That's the very first point where we can put it. Okay, fair. Actually, I'm wondering, I mean, this is a 0. I'm wondering if this also counts as a 0 if we, no, probably just doesn't count for anything. So I probably need to keep track of how long our list is. It starts at 0. It starts at 0. Then we need to work our way back. So we need to have a list size. Let's call it a list size. So let's call that pointer. Ideally, we actually keep all our data and in the end then we can start at a 0 and we can always have a 0 there rather than working our way backwards. So we start out with a 0 that points here, so if we have a list to check, then that works. So let's actually, rather than starting with, so if we have a compare here, let's put it at the end somewhere, like so. So we have, let's see, we jump over, we put an inbox, we put that, we copy it to the compare value, boom. Then we copy from 0 and we copy it to to there. That basically we have a 0 over here. No, we need a pointer. The thing is, I want to preserve the 0. That's why I'm not trying to do anything with it, because it's pretty hard to actually get by a 0 if you don't actually have any zeros, which is probably why I've gotten zeros all the time so far. So we need to reset our pointer first. So we read the inbox, we copy from, okay, so this is going to be 0. We copy it to, let's copy to the pointer. Okay, so we reset the pointer. That's just there. Okay. Also, all the way in the beginning, we do need to copy the 0 and we need to actually put it in 0. So this way, my thinking is, we need to build a dynamic string. String is always terminated by a 0. So in this case, an empty string starts with a 0 because there's nothing that precedes it. It's empty by default. So that's what we start out with all the way in the beginning. Never to return, that's just what we need. Okay, so we put it in. Then we jump over our exit condition. Then we pick up a number. We store it into the compare label. Then we put a 0 in our pointer to reset it to the beginning of the checking sequence. Okay. And then basically we do the same thing as we did in the previous problem, which is to say we have to iterate through all of the list until either until we find the end of the list without actually having a match, and that's a good thing. So what we do is we copy from the value that the pointer is pointing at. Okay, if it's a 0, excellent, we found the end of the list, which means we can head over here. And for the outboxing, actually what we need to do, we need to copy the value from what we're actually comparing with, and we need to send it out. Pick up the value, send it out. That's our exits. Okay. Excellent. That moment we have a pointer that's pointing at somewhere. Also, we need to store our value. So we actually managed to find the end of the list. Very important, we found the end of the list. So pointer is pointing at whatever is the end of the list. Okay. So what if we read the compare value? Then we store it to whatever the pointer is pointing at. So this used to be a 0 because we just initially set it to 0. Yeah, so we set it to 0. And now we put the value that we are checking with, we put it in. So an empty list becomes the first value. So this becomes an A. That means we need to put a 0 behind it to still have our termination condition. So what we need to do then is we bump the pointer by 1. So then it's gonna point to the next space. And what we next do is we copy from 0 and we store it into whatever the pointer is pointing at. So the next space we force it to be 0. Doesn't matter what was there before, it becomes 0. And then what we do is we can once again copy from the compare and we send it to the outbox. And we pick up the compare value twice here. But I'm not quite sure if we can, if that's something we can solve. So this is possibly an inefficiency, but for now I'm leaving it slide. It's gonna work. So that's it. So we have another edge case condition here. So if, let's see what we were doing here. We were comparing this. Yeah, we just picked up the whatever the pointer is pointing at. Yes, if it's a 0, we are done with the list. If it's not the case, currently we are jumping back, and that's obviously not quite what we had to do, because this is just from our first step. So this is the checking routine. So we read the value that the pointer is pointing at. If it's a 0, we're done. Otherwise, we need to actually compare it. That seems logical, right? So then we subtract the compare value. If that's a 0, we have a match, which means it's good. Then we can just go back. Because then if you have a match, we can ignore it, because it's already been sent out. We can just go back. So then we just jump back, pick up a number from the inbox, we put it in the compare. We 0 the pointer, and we just start checking all anew. Okay, if that's not the case, then we still need to advance the pointer. It needs to point to a next thing, and then we do a check again. So let's see if this logic, fine as it sounds in my mind, if I've actually made any mistakes or not. Also, let's just watch it at a slower speed, just to see if it makes sense. Actually, just gonna start it again, slow speed. Okay, so 0. We put it here, mark the end of the string. That's the setup. Okay. B, we're comparing it. We reset the pointer. Okay. We're walking up and down with that B a couple of times. Okay. Empty string became B with a 0 after it, then an A. Okay. Pick up the B, compare it with A. There's a difference. Oh look, it's not 0. We point it to the next one. We have a 0. Double checking. Put A in. Pick up a 0. Put it there. So we are slowly adding to the list of things that we have found already. Okay, and B. Now it's gonna be the first true test. Have we seen this before? Pick up a B. Compare it with a B. That's a 0, so that's the same. We discard it and we pick up the next one. Booyah, it works. But next thing is going to be efficiency. From just the way that the guy was just walking up and down and then having the same value in his hands multiple times, this shouldn't be the most efficient solution. As I was saying, 3 instructions too many. And more importantly, it's going to be 25 cycles too many? Yeah, it's 25 cycles. Okay, so copy, pasta. So this is something that was bugging me. So let's analyze this a bit more in detail. This is our exit condition, so it only triggers once every letter. Once every time we send something out. But still, it's a lot of instructions. So let's see, the last thing we do, we compare. So we're holding a 0, so we don't actually have a useful value in our hands. Okay, so if we have not found a duplicate, the pointer is pointing to the end of the series. What we need to do is we need to put the compare value down, and we need to put a 0 behind it. And that's it. So what if we read the value that we're comparing? We copy it to the pointer. What if we just instantly send it out? Radical idea. After that, we bump the pointer, so it advances by 1. We read the 0, copy it to whatever the pointer is pointing at next. And then there's no more need to do this. So we save ourselves 1 instruction. So 1 down, 2 more to go. And this is no longer as annoying. Also, there's the resetting in the beginning. It seems a bit like what we're doing here, because we are pending a 0 in the end. So what if, rather than we do this, we just open up with this. We copy from 0 and we copy it to the pointer. That's another 2 cycles saved. So this change alone should solve... wait. We need to reset pointer first. Okay. Almost had it. So the logic is the same, only we need to just shuffle things around a bit. Let's see, inbox, copy. So pointer needs to be 0 before we can do this. Dang it. Dang it. So, copy from 0, copy to pointer. We need to reset the pointer. After that we can just jump over and then we reset the list. After which we reset the pointer. That seems weird. We're doing the pointer resetting, we're doing it twice. Is there a way to get it out? So when do we want to reset the pointer? Maybe that's a better question to ask. We only want to do that whenever we are comparing a new number. Okay, that makes sense. Thing is, we can still have a choice between doing it before or after we pick up a number. I say... It's just working. Maybe that's a better one. Just to double check. I mean, we shaved off one instruction. Okay, it seems sane. For the runtime, it's going to matter a little bit as well. Not much, but a little bit. So I think this might actually be the first episode in a while where I'm just gonna leave with a puzzle that has some room for improvement, and then next episode, well, I'll check back and come back with a better solution. So I thank you very much for watching. If you have ideas, feedback or any other comments, leave them below, and then I'll see you again next time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.